Hey y'all, I'm Rylan. Welcome back to my channel. I am super excited to talk about my May TBR today. I will be finishing up school the first week of May, but after that, I plan to be super duper duper ambitious. My goal is to read more than 30 books in the month of May. Yeah, because it'll be the first time in a long time that I've had an extended break from school, and I really just want to dive in and read a ton of books. I would love to hit 110 books by the end of May, like on my Goodreads goal, which would be only 40 away from my yearly goal. So that is the plan. That is my dream. We'll see if that happens. But yeah, I mean, a girl can dream. I'll have nothing else going on after school is over, so like, why not, you know? Why not? There are some books that I plan to read in May that will not be a part of this video, only because I plan to film a separate TBR for it, and that is for the Readathon readathon that is happening May 16th through the 22nd. So I'm going to film a TBR video for that when I get home from school, and I will talk about the books that I plan to read for that readathon then. Before you say anything about my book cart, because usually it's like overflowing in my videos, it looks a little empty right now. And that is because I have actually moved most of my books back home because I went home this past weekend for family stuff that I had going on. So I brought home most of my books that were at school just because it would make moving out in 2 weeks a lot easier. This also did make picking my TBR for May a little bit challenging because I love having physical books when I make these videos. So I have a lot of books down here, and I also brought some books back from home with me specifically for this video because I won't be reading them until May, but I wanted to have them to show when I made my May TBR. So I do have a pretty good stack right here. A lot of books that I'll be showing are just gonna be photos because they're either at home still, or they're NetGalley arcs, or I just don't have the physical book yet. So I'll have a pretty good mix of physical books slash Kindle books slash NetGalley arcs that I plan to read this month. Because I have so many books that I want to read, I am not going to talk about them for very long. I always say that, I think, and then I always like ramble, but I am legit going to just be very quick about this because I don't want this video to be super long because I do plan to read, like, I have a list of books that I want to read and talk about in this video. So let's get into it. I'm going to say the book title and the genre, and that might be all, just because I don't want to say that's going to be all that I talk about, but it might be all that I talk about just because I want to get through this quickly. The first 4 books that I plan to talk about are books that I'll be reading for a 72-hour readathon called the 72 Frightathon. Readathon that is going on from May 7th through the 9th. May 7th is actually the day of my last final exam and the day that I plan to move out of school, so I probably will not be reading anything that day, but because I'll be 100% free on Saturday and Sunday, I hope to read 4 books in those 2 days, but we'll see if that happens or not. Anyway, this readathon is going to be hosted by my friend Danny from Danny Marie Reads and also Jane from the Bookaholic. I will link both of their announcement videos down below if you want to join. I will be on Team Killer. So I have 4 books matching those 4 prompts that I will be reading. The first book that I will be reading for the horror book prompt is Horror Store by Grady Hendrix. This is a horror story that takes place in an IKEA. And so the book is like a catalog. I don't know, it's really cool. So I'm very excited to read this one. I'm hoping it's a quick read because it is formatted with like lots of pictures and like stuff like that. So I'm hoping this will be a very quick read and something that I can fly through in just a few hours. The next book that I'll be reading for the murder slash killer prompt is Brother by Naya Alvord. This is a horror book about a family of serial killers who like kidnap people and torture them and kill them together in their basement, and the brother realizes, I think, that like what they're doing is wrong, and so he tries to like escape it, I think is what it's about. The physical book, I owed it, but it's at home, so I will be reading that when I get back to Ohio. For the Blood Red cover prompt, I will be reading The Windsor Knot by S.J. Bennett. I have no idea what this book is about, but William Morrow sent it to me, so I am very excited to read it. It is a mystery, and that's all I know. Finally, for the isolated setting, I will be reading The Sanatorium by, is it Sarah Pierce, I believe. I'm just going to flash the cover on the screen, so if that's wrong, it's fine. I own the physical book as well, but I believe it's at home. It's not at school, so it's probably at home somewhere. I'll just have to find it. But yes, I plan to read that. This is a recent release. It is a thriller about this woman who goes to an island, I believe, where this hotel was renovated from a sanatorium and creepy stuff goes on. I'm super excited for this one. This was a book that I requested on NetGalley months ago, like last year, and you know, never got an arc of. Sad day. So I bought the physical book instead, and I'm super excited to read it. It just sounds so good and something that is right up my alley. So I'll be reading that for the isolated setting prompt. Those are all 4 prompts for the 72 readathon. Because it only takes place over 72 hours, there are only 4 prompts for each team. So I really think that as long as I, you know, get to it once I get home from school for the summer, I can get through all these books. However, if I feel like I cannot, I will probably switch to reading a manga of some sort because Danny said that that was okay, and I love manga. So if I can find something creepy, I'm sure I can make it fit one of the prompts. And then I will talk about my Mageinathon TBR in a later video, but those are the 2 readathons that I'm doing this month. The rest of these books I am just reading on my own for fun, and hopefully we'll get through all of them. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the NetGalley arcs that I want to read this month. I have 60 unread arcs that I need to read, and I would like to read 5. Only 5. Wow, I should have done better on that. I would like to read 5 of them in May. Hopefully more if I end up being able to read all the books on my TBR. Because what else am I gonna do with my life? You know, I've got nothing going on. I only work during the school year. I only have homework during the school year until my summer classes start, but I don't want to talk about that. So like, what else am I gonna do, you know? So might as well just read a lot. Okay, so I have 5 NetGalley books that I have on my TBR for May. The first one that I want to talk about is one of my most anticipated releases of 2021, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I read The Silent Patient last year, and I am one of the ones who loved it. Gave it 5 stars, one of my favorite reads of 2020. Cannot believe I had not read it sooner. I don't know much about this book, except that it is a thriller that has Greek mythology, and it takes place at Cambridge. So I believe it's like a dark academia thriller with Greek mythology in it, and honestly, I'm here for it. After reading The Silent Patient, I knew that Alex Michaelides was going to be an author that I loved, so I'm so excited to have gotten an arc of The Maidens because I requested it back in January or February, I think, and never like got an approval. Like, I just assumed it got denied, but I hate checking to see what I like got denied on because it makes me feel bad. But then over the weekend when I was at home in Ohio for my family stuff that I had going on, I got an email and I literally jumped like in the air, and I was like, what the heck? I just assumed that I had gotten denied for it, so I hadn't even thought about it. I was just gonna buy the book when it came out, but then I got an arc and I'm screaming. It's fun. Like, my cheeks, like, I just can't stop smiling when I think about it because like I was shocked. Like, I was legit shocked because my NetGalley ratio is so bad because I have so many unread arcs because I keep requesting. But it's fine. So that is the first arc that I want to read in May. The second book that I want to read this month is The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon. This book has already been released. It is a thriller revolving around families, I believe. I've heard it's super dark, super mysterious, so I am very excited to read it. I also want to read Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. This is a retelling of Jane Eyre, which is one of my favorite classics of all time. I have only read it once, but I would love to do a reread of it this year just because I love it so much. I'm very excited for this book. I heard that it was a Jane Eyre retelling, and I was like, I need it. So I requested it and I got it, and I was also a little bit shocked about this one as well. I also would like to read Mafia Prince by V. Carter. This is a dark mafia romance. And you know how I feel about dark romance, you know how I feel about romance of any kind, so I'm expecting some steam in this book. And finally, I plan to read The Guest by Katherine Grant. This is another thriller. This is one of my oldest NetGalley arcs that I have that I got last year, like in the summer of last year, so I definitely need to read it. One of my goals for this year is to go back and finally read some of my backlisted NetGalley arcs, which I started doing in April, and I'm very glad about that, so I cannot wait to keep doing it this summer. So hopefully I can bring up my NetGalley ratio while also like reviewing finally some of my backlisted books that I've had for almost a year at this point. So yes, okay. Next, I want to talk about 3 Kindle books that I want to read in May. I have a problem with always borrowing 10 titles from Kindle Unlimited and downloading free Kindle books that I never read, so I would like to make more of an effort to do that. So I'll be reading hopefully 3 Kindle Unlimited / Kindle books that I have downloaded. First, I'll be reading In Peace Lies Havoc by Emma Jones. This is a dark romance, I believe, and that's all I know about it. I also hope to read The Spanish Love Deception by Alina Armas. This is a contemporary romance with the single bed trope, I believe. I've heard phenomenal things about this book on Instagram and Twitter the past few months, so I knew I needed to read it. This was on Kindle Unlimited, so I downloaded it. And finally, I will be reading Trouble by Lexi Tim. This is just a Kindle book that was free. One of my friends told me about it, so I downloaded it because it was a free romance, so I have no idea what it's about, but I'll be reading it hopefully in May. So now I'm going to try and go through the physical books that I want to read this month. None of these are part of a readathon or anything like that. 2 of them are for book clubs that I'm a part of, and the rest are just books I need to read. Okay. The first 2 books I'll talk about are book club books for the various book clubs that I'm in this month. The first one is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is actually going to be a reread for me. I read this book in October of last year and absolutely loved it. Gave it 5 stars. My book club that I co-host, which I will link in the description down below, we are reading it in May because it is Maya's birthday month and she wants to read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I actually got the book for her for Christmas because she's wanted to read it for so long, and we're finally reading it for our book club, and I wanted to do a reread of it because although I still remember most of what happened, I absolutely loved this book. I sobbed, gave it 5 stars, 100% loved it, and cannot wait to reread it. Birthday Girl is an age gap romance, and that's all I'm going to say about it, or else I'm going to start crying because I love it so much. Second, I am in a thriller book club called Literary Thrilling, and one of their picks for this month is Mirrorland. It just came out in the middle of April, I believe. It is a thriller, and it has to do with a house. That's all I know, so I'm very excited for it. I plan to read a few fantasy books in May because I have read several in April and have just honestly loved them all. So I want to keep up that trend and hopefully read more as the summer goes on, just because I'll have more time. But the 3 that I have picked out to read in May are 3 that I'm very excited about. First, I will talk about this one that everyone will freak out when they see, and that is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Yeah, this book has been everywhere recently because of the release of the 3rd book. This is a arranged marriage. I was gonna say fake dating, but that's not right. Is this an arranged marriage fantasy romance? I honestly have no idea what it's about. I bought it because of the hype, which could either be a really good thing or a really bad thing. So I only bought the 1st book just in case I didn't love it, but I really think I will, just because everyone else seems to love it. So I hope to read From Blood and Ash in May. I also plan to read The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. This is a Sir Arthur, like Camelot retelling, I believe. The cover is beautiful. Someone gifted me this book off my wish list last week and I cried a little bit, so I cannot wait to read this one as well. This is a series, I believe, and the 2nd book is absolutely stunning. So if I love this one, I will definitely be buying the 2nd one. And the 3rd fantasy book that I plan to read in May is Witches Steeped in Gold. This is a very new release. It came out in April, about witches. I love a good witch fantasy story, so I cannot wait to pick this one up. The cover is beautiful. I have had this pre-ordered since January. I think the end of January is when I pre-ordered it, so I cannot wait to read it. I also would like to read a sci-fi book in May, and that will be Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. I've actually already read this book. I read it last summer, but I read it on my Kindle, so I finally got the physical paperback of it because the physical paperback of the sequel was also published, I think, a while ago. But I saw them at Barnes & Noble and I was like, I need to just buy them because I read Skyward and gave it 5 stars, and so I plan to read Starsight in June, hopefully. So yeah, I need to do a reread of this series. And just because I loved it so much and still remember it, I will probably never read any of Brandon Sanderson's adult books, but Skyward has my heart. Then I also have a few more thrillers that I hope to read in May. The first one that I also want to read is The Girls Are All So Nice Here. This is a pretty new thriller release. I bought it when I was in Target shopping for things that were not books, but I always go to the book section when I do go to Target just because I like looking at how pretty they all are. So this one called my name because when I read the description of it, it sounded very similar to Shiver by Ellie Reynolds, which I read in February and really enjoyed. So I got this one. This book is about this girl who gets like an invitation to her 10-year reunion at school, and like along with it comes the note that says we need to talk about what you did that night, and she's like, you know, like we did something bad, you know, 10 years ago, and I'm assuming that someone ended up dying from it. So I'm very excited to read this one. I love the cover. I love all covers, but yeah, I really like this cover and it just feels so cool. I don't know. It's like rough, but like nice. That made sense. I don't know. Another thriller slash horror slash maybe dark fantasy, maybe I want to read is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. Someone gifted me this book last week as well, along with The Guinevere Deception. So I cried a little bit because the person sent me both books and I was like, I was not expecting this. It was so cool. This book is about three sisters. When one of them goes missing, she leaves a trail of clues for the other two sisters to follow to find out like what happened to her, and they learn a lot of terrifying stuff along the way. This is a YA book. It just recently came out. The cover is beautiful. So yeah, I would like to read this in May as well. I like the purple cover. My L ASMR. Sorry. But yeah, I really want to read this book. The final physical novel that I would like to read is The Mothers by Genevieve Gannon. This book was gifted to me by William Morrow and I really want to read it. The cover looks kind of like a thriller, at least I think it looks like a thriller, but I think this might be more of like women's fiction. This book is about two couples who are struggling to get pregnant, and they are both going through IVF, and they go to the same fertility clinic. I guess something happens and one couple ends up giving birth to like the other couple's child, and the cover is like, what if the baby you gave birth to belonged to someone else? That's what the book is going to be about. I have a feeling it's going to be very hard and strong and powerful and dark, and I cannot wait to read it. And finally, I would like to read at least 2 manga in April. Yeah, I had a really bad habit, or not bad habits, but I read a lot of manga in April when I should have read like actual books, because I was just not feeling the whole reading like novels type of thing. So I turned to manga, which really helped me like not fall into a slump, I think, because now I'm kind of back in my groove and I'm reading again. So I'd like to read 2 manga in May. If not more than that, I will probably end up reading more than 2 manga. But the 2 that I have on my TBR are Kakegurui volumes 4 and 5. I have read the first 3 volumes recently and absolutely love them. This is a compulsive gambler manga about these students at a very elite school, and they gamble and the stakes are super high and everybody is crazy, and I've really enjoyed the first 3. They were all 5 stars for me, so I'm hoping that I really enjoy 4 and 5 as well. Those are all the books that I would like to read in May. Will my TBR end up changing? Probably. Will I read any of these books? That is the goal, but I feel like I always end up making a TBR and like not actually ever wanting to read the books that I talk about reading, even though like right now I really want to read them, which is why I put them on my TBR. But we'll see what happens when we actually get to May. Because I will be finishing up school for the first 7 days of the month, I will not be reading a ton, I don't think, but I would love to read a ton of books during the second the second 3 weeks of May, or whatever, however you want to say it. From the 8th to the end of the month, I would like to read a ton of books. So that is my goal, which is why I made such a large TBR. This also gives me room to like pick, you know, what I'm in the mood for at the time, because I have so many books and so many different genres. So I really think that I will be able to get through a lot of these. I might end up adding more to my TBR or kind of switching it up a bit. I don't know. I also have the readathon coming up. That will be in the middle of May. So I'll have 4 books to read for that as well. But I really think I can do it. Like, I plan to do a lot of vlogs to keep me motivated and hopefully just spend a lot of time focused on reading, because I certainly have not been doing that during April. So if you've read any of these books, feel free to let me know your thoughts on them. If you want to buddy read any of these books I've mentioned, also feel free to comment down below and let me know. I love to do buddy reads, even though I'm not always good at them, but I would love to try and buddy read a book with you. So please, yeah, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you're going to be reading in May, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more content. I try to post once a week, but hope to be more active in the summer when I'm not in school. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video.